Welcome to the Silver Screen Podcast. I'm Jared Boomer.
And I'm Katie Gainey West. This is a podcast about movies and pop culture.
And today we are reviewing Hamnet, which is, of course, a book that is based off of Hamlet. And the book came out a couple of years ago. Now there is a movie directed by Chloé Zhao. And so we will be talking about that today, starring Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal. So excited to talk about this one. I think there's a lot to unpack with this movie. It's a very emotional movie for sure.
Yes.
I wouldn't call it a happy movie or a joyous movie, but there's a lot of emotion in there.
Yes. I mean, I'll be talking about this one for a long time. And I'll say right up front, I was terrified to see this movie for a lot of reasons. It was absolutely as devastating as I expected, but it far exceeded my expectations.
So we'll get into that here in just a few minutes, but since our last episode, we did have a big celebrity death, and that was Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner. Unfortunately, they were killed by their son in their home.
Allegedly, but yeah.
Allegedly, that's
just a
not
case. I don't want to get
proven yet,
sued.
but not, innocent until proven guilty, but that seems like that's what happened. And they had gone to Conan O'Brien's Christmas party the night before, which he holds every single year. And so all three of them were at that, and there was some things that happened there that I think led to what happened the next morning at their house. So unfortunately, they did both pass away. Rob Reiner, I think probably one of the best directors, especially in that 80s and 90s decades. I think those two decades, he was just like every movie was a good movie that he was releasing.
For real, because there were so many. I knew about Rob Reiner before this death, and I knew he was such a prolific director and also acted in a ton of things. But he also was a famous son. His parents were both famous. His dad, of course, was Carl Reiner, who only died, I think, 5 years ago. And his dad helped on the Dick Van Dyke Show. His dad was a hilarious comedian. His mom was an actress and also funny, Estelle. So I knew about their family, but I knew a lot of the movies that Rob Reiner directed, but I did not realize how diverse the grouping was. So to name a few for you all, he did A Few Good Men. That's the only one he received an Oscar nom for, but it was for Best Picture, which is one of my favorite movies. I think it's not in my top 10, but it's darn close. When Harry Met Sally, The Princess Bride, Stand By Me, This Is Spinal Tap, and Misery, just to name a few. And then he also acted... he was in a lot of things. I forget recently what I just saw. He was in many episodes of New Girl because he played a recurring role in that. But he was also in The Wolf of Wall Street, which of course is the first movie Jared and I ever saw together back in the day. And he played Leonardo DiCaprio's dad, which is hilarious. And I watched a couple scenes from that he was in and just had a good laugh the last week or so.
And then he was in All in the Family back in the 70s, and for many years in that sitcom. But yes, his role in Wolf of Wall Street is very good. It's very comedic. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have a lot of screen time, but he makes the most of it, and is very funny in his scenes with Leo and Jonah Hill. So yes.
And his wife was pretty famous in her own right, and there's a famous, I knew this long before their death too, that the entire ending to When Harry Met Sally changed because he fell in love with Michelle Singer Reiner when they were making that film, and he changed the ending because he was in love and thought that they would have a long-lasting marriage, which they did. So the end of When Harry Met Sally was not going to end with Harry and Sally happily ever after. They were not going to work out, and he changed it, which was so sweet. It's one of my favorite rom-coms of all time. I haven't seen This Is Spinal Tap. It's on my list. It's one I definitely want to. But I have read many things about him since this murder took place, and they said that he essentially created the mockumentary style, and that's what This Is Spinal Tap is about.
Yeah, that's a very funny movie about a fictional band, obviously. And it is very well done, and especially for being the first in its genre, since we've had a lot of mockumentary movies since then. But that one is really, really good. Stand By Me is great as a coming of age movie. You got to put that probably in top 5 coming of age movies. That's solid. So yeah, lots of really good films that Rob Reiner directed. So he will definitely be missed, and his wife, Michelle, as well. So
wishing peace to their whole family. This has got to be pretty traumatic in every way for the other siblings that are involved, for Conan O'Brien, for everybody that was at that party. And this is definitely a time to reflect too on mental illness, how we treat people with mental illness, how we should take that seriously. And by all accounts, they were excellent parents and really took his addiction problem seriously and his mental health issue seriously. So just a really tragic ending, but they left a good legacy, and we appreciate the contributions to film, especially.
Only other news item that we had is that the Oscars announced they are going to YouTube starting in 2029. So they will no longer be on ABC on broadcast television. They will be on YouTube. Now, I could not find in their announcement if you could watch the Oscars for free on YouTube, if you had to have YouTube TV. It was a little unclear based on their statement in terms of what was going to happen with that. I'm hoping you'll be able to just watch it for free on YouTube. That would be a great option. And I think would also give the Oscars some more visibility as well, and maybe make them a little bit more relevant. The fact that they will be on YouTube and, possibly be very easy to watch instead of having to watch them on ABC, which is obviously still not insanely hard to find. Like you can, get an antenna or whatever, but I think the YouTube option may give them some more relevance and a wider
Yeah,
audience.
definitely going to help with their viewership issues. I'm a little I don't hate the decision. I was kind of like, wow, this is what it's come to. But at the same time, I think it's good if more people watch it, and I think they were almost forced to do that because that is how people engage. And a lot of I mean, I even listen to, I'm using air quotes, listen to slash watch some podcast on YouTube rather than listen to them in my car. So it is interesting how that medium has changed.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, our podcast is on YouTube as audio
Mm-hmm.
only, so you can listen to that there, and maybe you do, and we thank you for
Yep.
that. But yeah, lots of stuff is moving to YouTube, and I think that will be helpful for the Oscars, and we'll see kind of what they do if they decide to change the broadcast up at all. I don't know if it's still going to have like commercials or if it'll be commercial free. I'm not sure kind of
Yeah.
what all that will entail, and they obviously have a while to figure that out. They've still got 4 years before that will be broadcast on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube because we're recording this at the end of 2025. So we've got, a couple of Oscars to go before it gets to the YouTube side of things.
Yes.
But we'll anticipate that in 2029. And then what we are listening to or reading, I'm reading one book right now. It's the third book in the Thursday Murder Club series, The Bullet That
Oh.
Missed. This is a really good series. It's about four old people who live at a retirement home and investigate murders. It's very cozy. The first two books were very good. The fifth book just came out earlier this year, and people have really liked that one. I'm not that far along, so I'm reading the third one right now. But if you want something that's an easy read, I would obviously start with the first one because some of the storylines do connect through the three, but they're all kind of separate, like murder cases that they're solving. But there are some
Yep.
running storylines. So, but overall, I'm liking it so far.
That's awesome. I'm reading a book. My favorite English teacher from high school, shout out Mrs. D, she recommended this book to me, but I had seen it got really high reviews this year. It's called How to Read a Book by Monica Wood. I'm about halfway through. I'm really enjoying it. Jared, I'm not going to hit 100 books this year. So I've made my peace with it. But really, compared to last year, I got to 60 books. So the fact that I'm at 90 right now is great. And I just realized that sometimes I need to slow my roll a little bit with my goals. So I think I'm going to get to 91, which I wish it was 92, but that's okay. I think I'm going to realistically get to 91. So my goal is just to finish this by the end of, oh my gosh, tomorrow. I got to get going on that. But
Bye.
anyway, it's really good. And it's about people who are actually in prison, which I didn't even read. I don't even think I read the description before I started it. And this woman that gets released from prison, she's kind of dealing with the aftermath of what she did and who it affected and how you live outside of prison. But it all has to do with like reading and different books because she was in a book club in the prison, and then how much she loves reading, and reading kind of takes her to another world. She tries to work at a bookstore, so it's very sweet, great for this time of year. And then shout out to the one book I wanted to recommend. I read a book called Grace and Henry's Holiday Movie Marathon by Matthew Norman. I got this from a new book club book subscription I'm trying called Aardvark. Shout out to Aardvark Books. And I do still do book of the month, love book of the month, but I'm trying a different one as well. And this was the first book I read from that subscription series. And first of all, it was written by a man, which was crazy. It was so well written. And I think men are great writers, but it's like a rom com. And I just thought men usually, I wouldn't say that's their expertise. It was adorable, and it's about two people. And I'm not ruining anything because you think the book is going to be all about love and falling in love, and it's not. But these two people have lost their spouses, so they're young widows, like 30s. And one of them has kids, one of them doesn't. One of them, their spouse dies from a long illness. The other one, it was quick, unexpected. But they talk about their love of holiday movies and form some kind of relationship. So that's, I'll leave it there. But it was adorable. If you like holiday movies, if you like this time of year and need like a cozy winter read, highly recommend it. And then I'm going to share tomorrow by the end of the night or by January 1st at some point during that day. I will be sharing my top books of 2025. I always do that on Instagram. A lot of my friends do it too, which is really nice. In recent years, I think I've done top 5 instead of top 10. So we'll see. I'm going to look at the list today and figure out what were the best ones of the year. I've got a lot of work to do before the end of the day tomorrow, but I've got time.
You do. You've got, you've got to finish a book. You've got to make a list. You've got a lot of things to do.
There's a lot.
So now, before we get into our thoughts on Hamnet, we are going to talk just a little bit about some other movies that came out that we have seen that we haven't done full episodes on. Just real quick, Frankenstein. I know you watched that. I have not watched that one yet. What did you think of Frankenstein by Guillermo del Toro?
Really liked it. It was a beautiful adaptation. Like, I should start off with that. I thought Jacob Elordi and Oscar Isaac were both excellent. I do think both of them deserve recognition, whether that's an Oscar nod or not. I think they both did a fantastic job. If I had to pick one, like if I could only say, hey, one person should get a nod, I would give it to Jacob. He really did a great job as the monster, the creation, if you will. There was the only thing that really stuck out to me that I didn't like. It is pretty gory, which didn't bother me, but if you're not expecting that, please do expect it. But Guillermo del Toro does do that a lot. So that kind of goes with his kind of filmmaking. But the one thing I didn't like, since I recently read the book and loved it, if you haven't read Frankenstein, it's a short read. It's an excellent book by Mary Shelley. Since I had just read it, I noticed all the things where they deviated from the story. But like the one thing I hated the most was Guillermo del Toro created a character. So Christoph Waltz, who we all know is a great actor, his character wasn't even in the book. So his whole storyline, the whole thing with him, I just thought we didn't really need this. And that stuck out to me a lot. But if you haven't read the book, you wouldn't care. It just was like another storyline. But that bothered me because I just thought it was unnecessary, if you will. But other than that,
if they felt like they didn't have enough because the story's so short. If they didn't have enough stuff to make it into a 2-hour movie, and they needed to add something,
and
but still, like you could just make a shorter movie.
Well, and I don't want to be talking out of my head here. Like I could be wrong, but there's a character that I think what Guillermo could have been doing with his character is an amalgamation of other characters, because there are other people in the book that were not in the movie that he just left out of the film. And so I wonder if that was his way of kind of incorporating them. But like all the stuff that happens with Waltz's character does not happen in the book. So I just thought, well, why is this here? Also, some of the people that die in the book, because obviously the creation is kind of a monster. There are deaths, and the deaths were changed, like how people were killed. So I thought that was interesting too. And I'm not sure why he did that. But other than that, I do think it's a great adaptation. I was really engaged in it, and I thought it was beautiful. I mean, cinematography, A+++, and the acting was great.
Great. Good to know. So I will definitely check that one out because it's getting Oscar buzz. Next on the list, another Netflix movie. All 3 of these are Netflix movies. You can watch them on Netflix.
Yes.
Next up, Jay Kelly, starring George Clooney as an actor. Very like meta look at how an actor that was like very popular kind of has not fallen from stardom, I want to say, but like is not like as in the cultural relevance as maybe they once were. And George Clooney trying to deal with that and deal with different things throughout his life. This movie I thought was fine. I'm going to say I was actually more intrigued by Adam Sandler's character and kind of what he was going through and like his journey. Like he was plays George Clooney's agent in the movie, and he was trying to manage like that versus like spending time with his family versus also like his kids getting older and trying to deal with that. Like I thought his story was like more fleshed out, and I actually enjoyed the scenes. I think with him the most, with him by himself or with him and Clooney, which
Yes.
I'm shocked I would say about Adam Sandler, but he's really good in this movie. But the rest of the movie was just kind of so. It was fine. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was very like middle of the road. What did you think?
Same. I was looking at my letterbox to see if I had anything that I said about it. I don't even know that I completely wrote much about it. I oh yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I did for this. I forgot I wrote this. I liked this. I didn't love it, which is true. I did think there were some lovely moments, so I didn't think it was a waste of time. I think it's going to get ignored a lot at the Oscars, though. Like people were really talking this up, and I think it's not going to do much at the Oscars. I think it was a really good move for this to be a Netflix release. Like I think perfect. Like I would not have wanted to pay to see this in theaters. Glad I watched it on
Yeah,
Netflix.
great Netflix movie,
Yep.
honestly.
And it was one I set everything down. I didn't look at my phone. I wasn't distracted. I watched the movie at home on Netflix and really I think I benefited from that, from not paying attention to anything else. So it was like I was at the movies but just at home, which was nice. Um I also I like Adam Sandler in roles like this more than comedies, which is true. I don't like his humor is just not my kind of humor. I don't think he's a I actually quite like him in general as a person, but I don't his funny movies are like not funny to me. But I thought he was really good too. He was the standout. George Clooney I think is charming as hell. I love watching George Clooney and he's beautiful. But I was kind of let down by this because I really like Noah Baumbach films. I think he's a great writer. I did enjoy seeing oh my gosh, Greta Gerwig.
Greta. Yeah.
Loved seeing Greta in it. I really like that both of them are so supportive of each other's careers. So that
Hmm.
always makes me happy and I liked her character in it. But yeah, I felt like this movie ultimately it didn't do a lot. Like there was no big moment in the film. It was a very quiet movie. But I think ultimately, Jared, tell me if you agree. I think this movie was a lot about friendship and a lot about just how we treat people. And if we don't show people we appreciate them or that they matter in our lives, that they will disappear, basically.
Yeah, that's kind of like what George Clooney is doing with is like his daughter is on this trip and he wants to connect to his daughter, but his daughter is kind of like, "Hey, I'm getting older and like you're not going to be in my life like 24/7 now." And him trying to
Yep.
like deal with that throughout the course of the movie. So yeah, I would agree. It's a movie about like getting older, trying to manage friendships. Like all these people know him,
Hmm.
but like how uh, how much do they really know him? I think is
Yep.
what the movie's trying to say is like he obviously has lots of fans. He has his team around him that know him kind of on a surface level, and Adam Sandler knows him a
Yep.
little bit deeper. But like, who really knows like the real Jay Kelly? I think
And it
that's what
was
the movie is trying
sad.
to say.
I did think it was sad his whole relationship with his daughters, with both his daughters. That made me bummed out, but I think that that probably is the case for a lot of celebrities that they have these children but they're like very disconnected from them or they were so busy chasing
Or they
notoriety and
just like
awards and stuff.
the kids just like go do their own thing because their parents
Yeah.
are away working all the
Yep.
time. So they just decide to like she does in the movie go on a trip to I think it was a music festival, right? Is where she
Yeah, but I don't
went.
remember which one, but it was in Europe, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a jazz festival. But this, I think that just does happen with kids of
Yeah.
popular celebrities. So, yeah, but overall, worth a watch if you want something to check out. Definitely
Mhm.
check out Jay Kelly. The final one is Wake Up Dead Man, Knives Out mystery.
Yep.
This one rocked. This was
It
probably going to be in my top
did.
10.
It
So
did. This was my favorite of the three movies we're talking about right now. And I think it's my favorite of the franchise.
I think for me it is too. Yeah.
And I loved
It-
the first one. I did not like the second one. But the first one, obviously I love Chris Evans is in it. Like, and it was so fresh. It was such a like fresh idea,
Nobody had
fresh
done a murder
cast.
mystery in a
Yeah,
while.
it was
Yeah.
so I was so into it, but I think I just liked the storyline and the actors in this. And man, if you didn't like Josh O'Connor before this, like Josh O'Connor?
Yeah. Josh
Josh
O'Connor. Yeah.
O'Connor.
Yep.
I don't know why that just happened in my brain, but man, he is the most delightful person. Do you know who I'm just like not the biggest fan of? Brolin.
Okay. Yeah, that's
He
fair.
doesn't. He just, in general, doesn't really do it for me and everything. I thought he was funny, like as the priest, and my thoughts on Andrew Scott. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I don't
know.
even care what he's doing in a film. I'm just happy he's there. So,
Yeah,
but
this one's really
what a
good.
delightful film.
Yep. It deals kind of with like this one takes place in a church, and so that's kind of like what they're all dealing with. And I thought it had really good commentary on like faith and like are you following the religion or are you just following a person? Like especially I feel like that's a big thing with like smaller churches is like are you just following the pastor or the priest and like everything they say is like the Bible basically, or are you making kind of your own opinions and thoughts
Yep.
on things? And that's kind of what Josh O'Connor's character is doing like throughout the course of the movie. And then gets obviously pulled in to investigate the crime
Yes,
with Daniel Craig, who is great as Benoit Blanc as he is in all of these movies. But yeah, I think
he
this one might have
is.
been my
I
favorite.
love him so much.
The twists and turns were
Hmm.
great, and you never kind of knew where it was
Hmm.
going to go.
Yeah, and all the actors. I mean, the casts have been amazing in pretty much all the films, but this cast too, I was like, man, there are some big names in here, and I like that Josh O'Connor's character too. He is, I think, not your typical person that would find his way to the priesthood, but I appreciated that he also didn't stray from the priesthood. He was very dedicated to like, this is my lifestyle that I've chosen. Because sometimes we see people who obviously, I mean, even Andrew Scott in Fleabag, who will stray from what he's committed to in the priesthood. And I appreciated that Josh O'Connor didn't. And that was also a commentary on faith and how he treated the path he's chosen, I guess. But really good film. I think it might be in my top 10 too, Jared. We'll have to see. But it's definitely it made a pretty big impression on me as well.
Yeah, it's very funny too. So, really good humor in that one. So, that is all of our thoughts on those quick movies. Just a heads up, a little teaser for you. Next episode, we're going to be talking about Marty Supreme. So, if you're looking for our Marty Supreme thoughts, it's going to get its own episode. So, look forward to that coming here soon. And right now, we're going to get into our thoughts on Hamnet. So, this movie was based on the 2020 New York Times best-selling book of the same name by Maggie O'Farrell, who also helped co-write the film for this one. And of course, it's surrounding the story of Hamlet by William Shakespeare. So that is kind of what is involved in this movie. This is kind of like a modern take, I guess you if you would, on Hamlet with a little bit of updated, just not using like the Shakespeare language for the whole thing pretty much. So, and then
Oh,
obviously kind of like the process of like how he came to like write that play after the death of his
yes.
son. So, yeah.
Also, I studied theater and also took an entire semester on Shakespeare and never knew any of this. I knew he had three kids, I knew he had a son that died, but I did not know it was the inspiration for Hamlet. And a lot of this, obviously, we don't know 100% because he did live so long ago. There wasn't like a journal that said, I based Hamlet on Hamnet dying, but it all happened around the same time. And if you've read Hamlet, there are a lot of allusions to death and ghosts and revisiting our past and what we would do differently, which this did inspire me. I have a confession, which now this won't be a secret because I'm saying it on a podcast. I have never read Hamlet all the way through. Um, so it's out there now. And the good news is I've started it, and I will soon be reporting back to you that I have finished and read the entire play of Hamlet.
Very nice. I don't think I have read that either. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Sorry,
just embarrassed.
guys.
I'm embarrassed I studied theater and English, and I've never read Hamlet, which is one of probably the greatest works of all time. It is interesting so far, though. There's a
Okay.
ghost, which I knew.
Okay.
I knew the story of Hamlet, but I'd never read it. So I needed to. Anyway,
Also, just a heads up, we will be spoiling obviously a historic event in this episode, but this happened a long, long time ago, and
yes.
there is child death, and so if that triggers you, we're going to talk about that. We're going to have to talk about that a lot, so just be aware of that as we go forward. So, this is released on December 5th, rated PG-13 for some partial nudity, some strong sexuality, and thematic content. I will say there's like one sex scene in this movie. It's
Yeah.
not really that bad. It's
It's
not.
not. It's pretty tame. It's
Yeah,
pretty tame.
it's based on some, and then the partial nudity is more due to like giving birth. So that's not like
Yep.
nudity in a
Yep.
sexual sense. That's more of just nudity because of childbirth. So
Yes, really good call out because there's sometimes I think either way you'd want to be hesitant if you had younger children
mhm.
because that also could expose them to something different they're not ready for. But also that scene that you talked about at the beginning, the sex scene, was very relevant to the story. And another thing I looked up later, I did not realize that when Anne Hathaway, which more on that name later, but when Anne Hathaway and William Shakespeare got married, they were actually expecting a baby. But as they point out in the film, that was like not a big deal then. Well, in the film, it was a big deal with their parents. They were like, how dare you? But apparently
Yep.
that was super commonplace. And we didn't have these like puritanical, judgmental rules about that at that time. And I read about a third of people that got married at that time were already pregnant. Like it was
Okay.
very common to already be expecting a baby, and it wasn't frowned upon the way it would be frowned upon like in the 1950s. Yeah.
So this one is getting a very good reviews on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. It's a 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb, and then Rotten Tomatoes critics 87%, audience 92%. It is widely considered to be a big player for the Oscars coming up next year, probably going to get nominated and possibly win in multiple categories. So this is one we'll be talking about as the Oscar season continues here. And box office wise, it's made about $10 million. So not a ton of money, but that's honestly not awful. I will say it was a little hard to find a theater to see this movie in. And I know you had that
Yes.
same experience. I had to
Yes.
drive like 40 minutes to go see this. So that was pretty far. So I just want to say it wasn't playing in a ton of, didn't seem like it was in a
No.
ton of theaters.
I thought so. I was very, I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I texted Jared. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I know we're going to record this episode over the holidays, but I can't find this movie anywhere. But I looked and I'm glad I did because nowhere near me was showing it except that small independent theater. And they had like they had two other showings, but one was like middle of the day and I was still working at that time. Like we weren't done for the holidays. And I could see it on the 23rd at night. So I went on the 23rd to go to the movie theater and see it. And I think it was like the last showing they were going to have of it. But I'm glad I went and it was packed. Even that one tiny theater packed.
There was only 3 people in my screening,
Wow.
but you could hear the
Wow.
sobs. So
That's
yeah,
so interesting because I think the fact that the
I
theater
did
was
go at like three
packed.
o'clock in the afternoon though.
Oh,
So
okay. I think the fact that my theater was packed totally changed the experience of this film, which I will talk about later because I had a strong reaction to this film.
So the synopsis for this film: after losing their son Hamnet to plague, Agnes and William Shakespeare grapple with grief in 16th century England. A healer, Agnes must find strength to care for her surviving children while processing her devastating loss. Also, and when that happens, another big plot point in the movie is Shakespeare kind of being like, yo, I'm MIA. My play career is taken off over here in London, so I'm gonna be gone a lot. Just so you know, that's a big factor that she's also dealing with. I would say is her husband not being there.
Yes,
So
agreed. I did wonder about that. Like, that was something that I don't know was completely clear. I wondered how much of that was, I figured it was true, but I also was like, well, was he gone when the child died? Did he get there right hours after? Did he get there a month after? Like, I did wonder about a lot of that. You know what else never came up, Jared? If he was faithful or not, which I don't think he was.
yeah, that was not
Because
explored in this movie. Yeah,
yeah, and I'm fine that they didn't explore it. That actually I think is not relevant to the story, but I just get the sense from William Shakespeare that he was not a monogamous kind of guy. And I also there's a lot of reason to believe he was likely bisexual as well, which is not weird and certainly not weird for the time period either. But I just thought that was interesting. It never came up, but the whole time I was like, I really doubt he was faithful at this time. But that's okay.
so this one is directed by Chloé Zhao, who is a Chinese film director, screenwriter, and producer. She has directed Nomadland, Eternals, and also The Rider. And she won an Oscar in 2021 for directing Nomadland. We'll say this is probably my favorite movie of hers. She has directed. I have
For
not really
sure.
I have not really connected with any of those other three movies.
No.
She when she won for Nomadland, that was also nominated for Best Picture, won Best Picture, Best Film Editing, and Best Adapted Screenplay. She was the first Asian woman nominated for Best Director, and next up, she will direct the first episode of the TV series Buffy the Vampire Slayer, New Sunnydale. So she's
I
going to do
know.
a Buffy the
I
Vampire
was
Slayer
surprised for multiple
reboot.
reasons. Yes, I thought it was so weird. First of all, I was like, why are they rebooting that? And secondly, I just thought it was, and I wouldn't be surprised if she directed more than that, but they only had that first episode listed as her like next project or whatever. Jared, couldn't agree with you more. This is my favorite thing she's directed. I think we were both extremely disappointed with Eternals. And Nomadland just didn't do it for me. I get it, but it's one of those artsy fartsy Oscar darlings that I was like, okay, I'd be fine never seeing this again.
Yeah, I until we mentioned it right now, I had forgotten about that movie completely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and that was only 4 years ago that it won at the Oscars. So
Yeah.
the cast for this movie, of course, we've got in the lead role Jessie Buckley, getting lots of Oscar buzz for her performance.
Jared, I have things to say. First, unrelated to the cast. Well, it's related to people, the actors. I would like to say, I will admit when I'm wrong. And you know how I changed my opinion about Scarlett Johansson several years ago? I have changed my opinion also about Jennifer Lawrence. I've been seeing a lot of interviews with her lately. I just feel like this at the end of the year is a time for me to just come clean about a lot of things on this podcast. And I've been watching a lot of interviews with her and just learning more about her in general. And I like her more than I used to. So it's not like a dramatic shift. I just wanted to share that. That doesn't mean I like all of her acting and stuff. But yeah, the other person, I feel very strongly about Jessie Buckley in this movie. Now, it could be just this film. I've seen her in several of her other films. I don't know what it is about her, but she's never like, I've just never clicked with her. But this movie, what I wanted to say is she is incredible. I'll get more into that in my likes, but she's phenomenal. So those are my changes to who I like and don't like, if anybody cared. Jessie Buckley plays Agnes in this movie, which it looks like Agnes, and that is the same person as Anne Hathaway. I have a tiny bit of history for you in a second on that. But Jessie Buckley is an Irish actress and singer, best known for the TV series Chernobyl and Fargo. She also was in movies I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Women Talking, which I really liked, and The Lost Daughter. In 2022, she was nominated for a Best Supporting Actress Oscar for The Lost Daughter. And next up, she will star in The Bride, which is about the Bride of Frankenstein and was directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal. So I think that's coming out 2026.
Yeah, that comes out, I think, early next year. So, yeah.
Yes. Also, this movie, I was talking to Arjun about, I really feel like right now is a moment for like an Irish invasion, which I'm loving. But like the Irish actors are having a moment here in America, and good for all of them. So next up we have Paul Mescal or Paul Mescal. We've heard it so many different ways. I say Paul Mescal, but who knows who's right. He plays Will, also known as the William Shakespeare. He is an Irish actor known for the TV series Normal People and movies like Aftersun, All of Us Strangers, and Gladiator 2, which we did cover on episode 211 of the podcast, if you're interested in that. In 2023, he was nominated for Best Actor in Aftersun. And next up, you can see him in a film version of Merrily We Roll Along, which is different than the release they just had about the Broadway version they filmed. So this is going to be like the movie is going to be the movie. And then they also just did a very short limited release, which I went to, of the Broadway production. He is also going to play Paul McCartney in a Beatles biopic. So we will see how that goes.
Yeah. Did you see that all four of those are supposed to come out on the same day? All four Beatles biopics.
Wait, okay, so they're doing 4 separate things?
They're doing one for each Beatle. And their plan right now is to release them all on the same day.
Okay, that, I did not understand that. I went to IMDb and saw all 4 of them listed, so they must be in each other's films. But I thought it was all the same film, and I was confused. So I just put, they're doing a Beatles biopic. But wow, if they're doing four, that is so silly. That is unnecessary. We don't need that.
They're going to be all released on April 7th of 2028. So
2028.
I don't know what I'll be doing then. That's a while
Oh
down the
my
road.
gosh. Okay, well, all right. So that's
I want to just
thank
put
you.
this. I really want to just put this in the out there in the ether.
Yeah.
I really hope that Ringo Starr or Paul McCartney do not die before those movies come out.
Oh no.
I don't think that will happen, but I'm just saying
You are
like that
wow.
that will definitely jack up the plan of the movies, and they will get delayed probably even more if that does happen. So
Wow. Well, we're just saying we are really putting it all out there today on the podcast. Oh, the last person, which don't let me forget after this person to tell you about my on yes Anne Hathaway thing. Okay. Last person is Jacoby Jupe. Now, I have heard this name pronounced Jacoby and Jacoby. I do think in different parts of the world it will be pronounced differently. But since these are the English, I am going to guess it's Jacoby Jupe. He plays Hamnet. I did want to mention him. He was superb as a child, a young actor as Hamnet. He did play an important role in the film, so he was the person I chose for our third feature. He is an English actor known for the TV series Before and also Peter Pan and Wendy and Britannia. Next up, he's going to be in Victorian Psycho, which I think I saw Billy Crystal is in, if I'm remembering that correctly. I just saw a still picture from it. But fun thing, Jared, I looked this up to double check, but I caught it in the film. I noticed they looked a lot alike, but then in the end credits, I noticed they had the same last name, and I was like, I bet they're brothers, and I was correct. So Jacoby, who plays Hamnet, there is an older boy named Noah Jupe who plays Hamlet when they do the play in the Globe at the end of the film. They are brothers in real life, and I thought, what a cool connection. They both are actors anyway, but I thought, what a cool way to because they look similar, and I thought that was a really good casting choice, and they both did a great job. So it wasn't just for looks, but it was cool to see this younger version and see what Hamnet would maybe look like when he's older. So I thought that was cool. And then my only other thing about Agnes, I keep bringing this up. So I had looked up, forgive me, I don't have the source because I read a lot about this after the film. I was like totally involved in this story. So apparently back in the day, I think it was from a .org site that is in England though, about Shakespeare. It was like williamshakespeare.org, or it was like house at stratford-upon-avon.org, something like that. But they talked about how back in the day, a lot of names were interchangeable. So for some reason, Anne Hathaway, her birth certificate or whatever they would have, documentation would say one thing, but her dad called her Agnes. And so I think her legal name, I think it was Agnes, but a lot of people started calling her Anne, or maybe it was pronounced more like that, but the names were interchangeable. So it's not wrong that we hear Anne Hathaway a lot when we hear about William Shakespeare's wife, but Agnes is not wrong either to put that in this film. And I thought that was just fascinating. So I wanted to tell you all that. Again, it looks like Agnes. But Anne Hathaway, Agnes, same person.
And same thing too with Hamnet and Hamlet. I think that same thing kind of applies there a little bit too. Like that was, those are very close and those were kind of interchangeable as well in terms of the name for their child.
And I almost wonder if Shakespeare did that on purpose. So he was like, well, this is the exact same name, but it's a similar name. I don't really know when he did the play. I don't know if that was his intention, but also an interesting call out. Yes.
So now we'll get into our likes for this movie. We've got to start by talking about Jessie Buckley's performance. She has the Oscar.
It's hers.
She has it. Yep.
I don't remember a time in recent memory, probably the last 10 years, where I felt so strongly like nobody needs to campaign for the Oscar. I don't need to see the other performances. It is hers for the taking.
Yeah, she is fantastic in this movie. She has to go through so many different emotions throughout the course of this film, pulls them off beautifully, has a lot of scenes where it's just her in the scene, trying to process grief and death and the fact that her husband's not there and all of this stuff, and trying to be a parent but be kind of a single parent, but really does a fantastic job just throughout the entire movie. She has so many standout scenes, but she should just get the Oscar.
Agree. I mean, she was phenomenal. And Paul did a great job. People keep talking about Paul Mescal's performance. He did a fantastic job. And if you listen to any interviews between the two of them, they are both so, it seems, genuinely fond of the other person and kind of in awe of the other person's performance. I think that her performance was enhanced and made better because of him and vice versa. But I just think like she was such a standout in a way that nobody else was in the film. And another thing that was interesting is that Jessie Buckley now is a mom. She wasn't when they were filming this. I think she got pregnant when they were filming this, and she has a daughter now. But I thought, what an interesting perspective, because a lot of things in my day job, I related a lot to it actually, because in my day job, I work with expectant moms all the time and postpartum moms and stuff like that. When I started the job a little over 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, I didn't have a child. I wasn't a mom yet. And it dramatically impacted the way I do my job, how I speak to people, even kinds of the programmatic areas I focus on after I became a mom. And I feel like that probably impacted Jessie in such a different way. Or maybe similar way, but I bet her performance would have been even more different. But I was even more in awe of her because of the fact that she wasn't a mom when she was doing this, but she portrayed this like she was. And the also giving birth, Jared alluded to that. You see her giving birth, and actually this is another like, so I'll just dive into that. I was amazed by the real life depictions of labor and delivery in the 16th century because they really focus on, oh, her mom was probably a witch and all this stuff, which who cares? But it's interesting in the film, but like in reality, doesn't matter to me. But I know that women had experiences similar to hers. Like she knew her body, what it was doing, her body knew what she was doing, and she just goes out to the woods to have her first child. And then she doesn't for the second, for the twins, it was a different experience. But the fact that she felt like I can just go do this on my own, I'm just going to go in the woods and my body's going to know what to do. That's not uh, outlandish. That is like, if we had to do that today, we could do it. I think we'd have more infant mortality and maternal mortality deaths. But I still, that is something that like your body knows how to do. But she acted that so well. And I also appreciated that Chloé Zhao, how she showed that without showing too much. Like you don't fully see a head crowning and things like that, but you see enough that you're like, wow, I'm hurting for her right now. Did you get that sense, Jared? I don't know how it felt for you watching it.
Yeah, I think for me, watching the depictions of those scenes, I think she did a great job of capturing the fact that like a mother knows her child better than anyone else on the earth will know their child. Even the father, even family members, but the connection that like a mother has to her child is something that is so unique and special. And I feel like she did a great job of capturing that in kind of both of those birth scenes, because the one birth scene, they're almost about to give up on it's Hamnet, correct? That they're almost about to just say that he is no longer there, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and she's like, "No, give him to me."
Oh wait, no,
You
it
know,
wasn't it the other way around? Wasn't it not Susanna, Judith?
was it the daughter?
It was
Okay.
Judith. Yes, because she always worried that Judith was not going to survive because Judith had a hard start at the beginning. And so she always thought that Judith was like the weaker of the twins. And so then
And
when something happens to Hamnet, she said she feels like a failure as a mother because she didn't see it coming.
so some other likes with this movie is this does really focus on family dynamics a lot with Agnes and Shakespeare, in terms of the fact that Shakespeare's away all the time, trying to raise children, trying to raise children of different ages. All that stuff is coming into play kind of in this movie. And it does a really good job of like depicting like it has some modern feel to it in terms of like what a
Mm-hmm.
modern family would be going through, but also relevant to the time period.
Yes, totally agree. Um, I thought this did a really good job though of portraying like some of the stuff that would be terrible about the 16th century, like the plague, or like when the water was coming through the door. Which some of that I wondered. There was a big everyone when she's giving birth to the twins. which this movie was so hard for me for a number of reasons, but the twin aspect also gutted me. Um, because the whole conversation that happens the night before Hamnet died, I could envision having that conversation with my twin brother, and being like, "No, no, no, they can take me. I need you to survive." Like, I completely understand that. Anyway, um, yeah, I feel like I had to disassociate in for real for a lot of this film because it was so close to home for a lot of reasons. But anyway, I felt like this part when she was giving birth to the twins, there was water, there was like a big rainstorm coming through Stratford upon Avon, and I couldn't tell if that was in her head that the water was coming in through the door, but that is absolutely something that could have happened at that time. And a big reason that some of these illnesses and things were running rampant. Obviously, the plague is passed through rats, but at the same time, and getting like bitten by rats and feces and things. But people's like feces and stuff were outside and would be in the water. There was just no, they didn't have gutters and other systems like we have now, and sewage pipes and all these other things, and obviously like toilets, indoor plumbing. So that kind of, I thought they did such a good job of portraying that. Things like her, people calling her a witch was so silly when I think really she just found ways to deal with medicine holistically. Like she was like, well, we can use these herbs. It makes sense that this would treat a cut. And people were like, witchcraft. It was like Salem, Massachusetts at certain points, which made me laugh.
Not the
And then,
thyme and the rosemary.
yes. And I thought like the modern stuff, I get what you're saying. I don't even know like a good example, but I know what you mean that it seemed like it's stuff as far as the family dynamic, it seemed like stuff that modern families have to deal with. Like, oh, well, we're raising the kids and we have to have time to play with them. But then at night, we're having to like make food for the next day. And we also have hopefully family nearby and other people that are going to help us raise them. And how are they going to go to school, where they're going to go to school. That kind of stuff is still relevant to today that families have to deal with.
Another like that I had for this movie is that I felt like it did a good job from William Shakespeare's perspective and the Paul Mescal character of capturing the relationship he had with his son and how that was different from the relationship he had with his daughters.
Yes.
Like he was like, I love all of them and I
Mm,
support all of them, but I have this
sure.
special connection to my son because he's my son. And Hamnet in a couple of scenes had that same thing where like when he's getting ready to leave a lot, he has a very emotional response to him leaving and going to London
Yes.
multiple times in the movie. And so I just thought that was really well done in terms of like the father son connection that was portrayed throughout the movie.
Oh, Jared, what a beautiful statement. I couldn't agree with you more because there were so many things I loved about how they depicted those relationships. I especially appreciated that the thing that Shakespeare's son was, or dad was so evil to him about was how sensitive he is, and how he's a writer and he's pursuing a career in the arts. But really, I think that was what made him such a sensitive and caring father who showed emotion in front of his son. This is a big topic now, right? With millennial parents, how dads are so much more involved. There's a lot more equality with parenting, and how important it is with sons. I see this with fathers and how fathers show emotion and affection for sons and how that will help them in life, only help them in life. But also how he would play sword fight with him and these other things. I also liked that both Agnes and Will let their children be who they were. Like, clearly, it was cute that Hamnet and Judith sometimes would pretend they were the same person or that they'd switch bodies so they were like the other person, and they just went with it, and that is good, the kind of thing that kids would do. But rather than stifle their imagination or say like, hey, calm down or quiet down, or no, 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 don't switch genders and like turn it into a big thing, they just went with it. And also Susanna, the older daughter, clearly was very responsible. She helped around the house, but she had her own personality, and they all had such distinctive personalities, and you could see their parents were really encouraging of them all being the way that they were. They didn't try to change what they were and or make them grow up too fast. And I thought that was beautiful. Again, that's something that totally pertains to parenting today.
Another like for this movie was the setting. Obviously, the like art direction, production design in this movie is really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Everything kind of just fits together. The costumes, the house, the nature shots. I mean, it's kind of a stand like a thing in Chloe Zhao movies now is like shots of expansive kind of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like you got that in Nomadland. I know that's in The Rider. Not as much in Eternals, but those more shots of space or whatever. But still, like trying to focus on the world that the movie is set in.
Totally. Agree with you. It was beautiful. It was visually stunning. Um, and this another thing that I was thinking of was like I loved not only the setting, I like that this felt kind of like a play. I like movies like that. I've mentioned that 800 times on this podcast. But I like also that there were so few characters, which made it really easy to focus on the story. It wasn't a complicated story. Obviously, there's complexity within the story, but the story was just, hey, this is a family, a child dies, they're dealing with, oh, we have to make money, we need to keep our kids safe. There's obviously not antibiotics and modern medicine and vaccines and things, so they're dealing with that, but there's not very many characters either, so it wasn't hard to keep track of people. I also didn't think that the side characters distracted from the film. Like Bartholomew was of course Joe Alwyn, which I do giggle every time I see Joe Alwyn. I don't think he wanted this for his life, but I see Taylor Swift. I just think, oh, that's the one that didn't work out. But also, he seems to weasel his way into every English film that is made. Do you know what I mean? Or like any
Yes.
film, really any film, he never has the main part. He always has like kind of an important, noticeable
Side
side
character,
role. Like
yeah.
in The Favorite that happened, in Harriet that happened, in this movie that happened. But he didn't detract from the film at all. And then also the woman that played, oh gosh, why did I forget her name just now? The woman that plays the mother-in-law. She's fantastic. Amy?
Yeah, I can't remember her name either.
I need to look her up. She was great too. And she played an important part because she had conversations with Agnes about losing children, because she said, obviously Shakespeare lived, but she said some of my other children didn't. And it's just a fact of life. And it sounds so cold and it sounds so harsh. But I think she really was just a pragmatic person and was like, these are the times we're living in. People die of the plague. We don't have modern medicine. It is what it is.
And
Which
there's
is
even
horrible.
There's
Yeah.
a scene where the eldest daughter kind of asks her about that and is
Yes.
like, what was the experience like for you? And I thought that was another really well done scene there.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Good point.
Let's talk.
I'm gonna look her up so I don't forget.
Okay.
The woman.
While
It's
you
Amy
look that
something.
up.
And she's like a well-known actress. Sorry. Emily Watson. Emily Watson. That's who it was. I don't know
Okay.
why I thought it was Amy. Emily Watson plays
Not
the
to be
mother-in-law.
confused with Emma Watson. So
Correct.
different people.
Good point.
So.
Good point. Good call out. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk about the difficult scenes in this movie.
Yes.
I think the most emotional scene in this movie, at least for me, I had really two that I thought were very emotional. One is obviously the scene of Hamnet dying and Jessie Buckley having to deal with that. I think the direction there by Chloé Zhao was fantastic. She really just lets that scene breathe. There's no music. It is a very emotional experience while you are watching that. And it was emotional in a theater with 3 people. I can only imagine what it was like in a full theater.
Disaster.
Everybody kind of seeing that scene together. Yeah.
Collectively, everyone lost their minds. It also, you bring up a really good point about no music. I think what made that scene such a literal gut punch was because whether you have a child or not, that felt real. Like that didn't feel like we're making a movie, let's get the music going and put the wind in their hair. That felt like if you had a child with the plague and they were dying and it is 1590 something, this is how it would end. And you believed it. And also just her guttural scream after he dies. Give her the Oscar for that. The scream, give her the Oscar. But secondly, I feel like that's exactly what you would do because you couldn't do anything. As a parent, whether you're a mom or not, whether you're a parent or not, like you couldn't do anything. I think all you could do is scream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she even pauses for a second to realize like what has happened and then lets out that giant scream. And it is just such a devastating moment. I will tell you, the other one that really got me, I mean, I was emotional, I think, during the childbirth scene just because that's happy. It's like
Yeah.
both times. Yeah,
But
obviously.
it's terrifying. It's terrifying in real life in a hospital, even because
Yeah.
there's no guarantee everything's fine. It's beautiful and terrifying. Yeah.
So the other one that got me is when obviously so there's a plot point where Shakespeare knows William knows that his daughter is sick. But
Hmm.
because this is old times,
Yep.
communication is not like they can just shoot a text message to each other,
Yeah.
and so he he comes back and he thinks his daughter is going to be the one that is
Oh.
ill. And so
Oh.
she kind of like runs into the scene and Paul Mescal acts it out like, "Oh, she's okay. We're
Yeah.
all
He just
good.
goes,
Nobody's."
Judith, Judith, you're
Yeah.
okay.
And then he kind of sees that
Ah!
Hamnet has passed away. And I just thought the acting of that scene was, I just said out loud, I said, "Oh no." Like when he, ran in and was
Sorry.
so excited that
It's not
she
funny.
was
I'm sorry.
okay. And then I just thought he acted that scene so well. He kind of
Yes.
just walks over and he's like, "Yep, that's my boy."
Yep.
And it's just very emotional. Like,
Ugh.
and that was probably the standout scene for him in the movie
For
for me.
sure. And I think you're right too. I think he even says my boy. And you're just
Hmm.
like, oh no, rip my heart out. And okay, spoiler, I gave this is, I think, one of the only movies this year I've given 5 stars on Letterboxd. Um, really the only dislike I had that's an actual dislike is the death scene was truly one of the hardest things I've ever watched in film. But I don't think they can get rid of it. But because it was so rough and because I am a parent and because of a lot of reasons, I don't know that I can ever watch this movie again. Or if I do, this might be one where I just skip that scene and watch the rest of the movie, before and the after. But that was so rough for me, but so well done. Obviously, the entire film hinges on that scene. And I did appreciate, whether you knew about Shakespeare in real life, I appreciate that I like how they marketed the film. You know, going into this film, a child is going to die. And I think that's really helpful with the blow. It's still awful, but if you mentally go in knowing, hey, we're going to fall in love with this child and he's going to die, I think that actually does help you as an audience member kind of like live through it, I guess.
Yeah, it's not an unexpected death. I mean, it
No.
is going to happen. It's just what point in the movie is it going to happen?
Yeah.
And I think my big dislike with this movie is, and why I'm probably going to rate it lower than you, is
Yeah.
I felt that the final sequence where they are acting out Hamlet, that did
Yes.
not work for me for some reason. I don't know
Hmm.
why. I just thought that was a very long kind of 15, 20 minutes of
Yeah.
obviously Jessie Buckley seeing like this play that her husband has worked on and kind of trying to memorialize his life and all of that.
Yeah.
But I just felt like that when they go to London and when they see that in the Globe Theater, I don't know. I felt like I was supposed to have a deeper emotional connection to that, and it
Yep.
was not working for me. And it was a very long sequence, probably again 15, 20 minutes of them
Yeah.
acting that out at the end of the movie.
Wow, I appreciate that perspective. I think that's completely understandable, and I think you and I have different life perspectives on this too. But also, I do disagree because that scene was what knocked me off my feet. That was the scene that made me full on sobbing, audibly making so much noise that I worried I was a distraction for people. But other people were causing so much ruckus in the theater that like all of us were sobbing that much, but that was the scene that pushed me over the edge. It wasn't the death scene. I could barely breathe. I'm not kidding. I mean, obviously I'm people react to things differently, but I had to like pray during the film. I had to keep telling myself my brother's okay, my son's okay, my like I had to keep telling myself these things. And I was wearing a mask to avoid sickness. But I was like muttering to myself, like, everything's okay. We're all okay. Everything. And that probably sounded like I was insane, but that was how much I was in it. But at the end was when I like lost it, cried, couldn't get a hold of myself. Why I loved that scene. First of all, I liked what they chose to show of Hamlet because I think that that introduces there's a ghost, that there's a young boy, that obviously Hamlet was a young person and his father has died. And there's been this whole, well, there's a lot of death in that play. Because again, I know the story, but I've just never read it. But I think that was important. I also love that they showed Agnes being disruptive. Like she kept saying she didn't care what anyone thought about her.
Hmm.
And I know people who have lost children And I know someone exactly that I was like, this person that I'm thinking of would be exactly like Agnes. She wouldn't care what the audience was thinking or anything like that. She would be like, what's he doing? The boy, like the minute she saw this young boy portraying Hamlet, she like got really quiet and just stared at him because I truly think she thought this is what my son would have looked like if he made it to this age. But what was so beautiful to me, my favorite thing about the film, so obviously this isn't a dislike, this is saying what I thought worked about that, was I think why this film is so powerful and why people are raving about it is because it's about shared grief. And grief is something every person in life will live through. Unless obviously if you die as an infant or something, but people understand grief just differently and at different times of life. But the fact that going to the movie is like a shared communal experience also makes this film extra special because you're not only understanding grief and going back to like moments of your life where you've grieved, you're experiencing that sadness and that we all have that at some time in our life together in a theater while watching someone else's grief experience. It was so beautiful, so powerful. I loved it. The one thing I will say, Jared, that I was interested in learning more was that Shakespeare's dad, that came up quite a bit. His dad being like abusive, like physically abusive, and
Yeah.
abusive as far as like, you know, you suck because you want to write plays, you little wimpy boy. I don't think it was like it wasn't a huge detriment to the film, but it came up enough that I was kind of like, well, is that going to be explained? And it never was. And I don't think we truly, because of how long ago Shakespeare lived, I don't think we actually know any of that. Like, I don't know if that was factual or not, and I couldn't find anything where it was. But another thing that is a like for me about this film was I was so interested in the material, which I think is really good for young people to be interested in Shakespeare, that I went and tried to look up everything. I tried to look up, like, how long did the kids live? Is anyone a living relative? You know, what room did this happen in? You know, so I think that was another good thing about the film. All of this to say, a lot more likes than dislikes for me.
Yeah, I think I'm still very positive on this film. It's just that that final sequence kind of for some reason did not work for me. I did
Yeah.
though. I did like there's a look kind of right near the end of the movie where
Mm-hmm.
Agnes is looking at William and just they're not saying anything, but you can just tell the look like
Mm-hmm.
William's kind of like, "Yeah, I know I've been distant, but I've been working on this to try and honor our son." And
Yep.
Agnes almost has this look of like, I forgive you somewhat for how I thought you were acting because I didn't realize this is what was kind of going on like in the
Yeah.
background and that you've made this beautiful production to kind of memorialize our son dying. So,
Yes, I think that was his way of grieving. And I think part of what she
mhm,
recognizes in that moment is that he grieves differently. But I also think, in a way, that play was a love letter to her, like saying, you know,
mhm.
we created this life together. This son was ours. You know, this grief is
Yeah, yep.
ours. And this is a gift I can give to you. Just, oh, beautiful. I could cry just thinking about it. I don't think I'll ever watch this film again. It was too devastating. Like, not
Okay, well,
only like children being a mom, but also like the twins. I was like, this is not a movie made for me. It's not.
yeah, well, and I think that maybe you did have a deeper emotional connection to it because you are a parent
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not a parent. I mean, I'm a dog
Mm-hmm.
parent, but
You are a
not a
dog parent,
child
and that
parent.
totally matters.
And there are a lot of animals in this movie. So if you like
Yes.
animals, it's a big animal movie.
Good,
Uh
good animals.
but I think that may have been why you did have even a deeper emotional connection to it,
Mm-hmm.
being that you are a mother and you are a parent and you are
Mm-hmm.
a twin. So all of
And a
those
twin.
things
And to
factoring
have a
in.
twin brother. Like all of
Yeah,
it.
yep.
I was just like, wow, this is too much for me. It's too much. But it was also
Uh,
so good. And I love Shakespeare. Like this, even though I said this movie wasn't meant for me, it totally was a movie that was meant for me. But it was so difficult to watch that I don't find this being a yearly watch for me.
Should we move on to our scores now?
Yes. And I
Okay.
think it's your turn to go first, but I do
Okay.
think I have mine.
I am going to give this movie an 80 out of 100.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. I feel like that's probably a little lower than you're going to rank it. I just think I don't think I would watch this again. I thought the performances were outstanding. I thought the storytelling was very well done. The world and everything, the setting was great
Mm-hmm.
and portrayed very well. I liked the direct. This is not a very I didn't mention this, but this is not like a flashy directed movie. Like we're going to talk
Mm-mm.
about Marty Supreme next, which is like complete opposite, like cut, 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 multiple
Yep.
camera angles, all kinds of stuff. This is very much like we've got a camera and we're kind of just following whoever's in that scene, like, and it's not a very like, movie, like stylistic movie, and I think it works well for this movie, just kind of letting the performances do the talking, and it makes it feel, again, like you said, kind of like a play almost. So
Totally
yeah,
agree.
80 out of 100.
That's great. Now I'm like, is my score insane? I'm going to go ahead and give this a 96. I loved this movie. I really did. And the more we talk about it, I mean, it probably comes through when listening how passionate I feel about it. But there's so little that I can say I didn't like or I wish they would have done differently. I know I do focus a lot on rewatchability, which we can definitely get to that with Marty Supreme. But I do think this is a film that, like, I have thought about this every day since I saw it. And it's been over a week. And I don't know. I loved it. It meant so much to me. I think it is a huge Oscar contender. And Jared and I are saying at the end of December, the Oscar is Jessie Buckley's. I will
Mhm.
be shocked if somebody else gets that Oscar. And I'm thrilled for her. I'm really excited. Great film. Absolutely loved it. 96. It's a top contender
Nice.
for my favorite film of the year right now.
I think it's still behind in the best picture race to One Battle After Another.
Yes.
However, I will say
Yep.
if this were to win Best Picture, I would not be mad about that at all.
Same.
I think it would be a very well deserved Best Picture
Same.
win.
I love that this movie changed my opinion on Chloé Zhao. It changed my opinion on Jessie Buckley. Like, wow, great job. And now I'm reading Hamlet. Go figure.
just crushing it. So you can follow this show on social media at Podcast Silver. We are on Instagram, and then just search the Silver Screen Podcast on Facebook to find us there. Our next episode will be talking about Marty Supreme, starring Timothée Chalamet as a table tennis athlete, not ping pong. Very important that it is table tennis. He brings that up multiple times during the movie, I feel like.
Yeah.
And corrects people. And that one is directed by Josh Safdie of the Safdie brothers. They split up this year. The other brother did The Smashing Machine, and then Josh did Marty Supreme. So both sports movies,
yeah.
but they separated. So
I probably need to see The Smashing Machine.
I was not as good as Marty Supreme. I will tell you that
I'm
right
really excited we are covering Marty Supreme, though, because I think it is an Oscar contender for sure. I don't know. For me, it wouldn't win Best Picture right now with what I've seen. But I have so much to say about that movie, and I'm really excited to talk about it.
So that will be our discussion on our next episode, talking about Marty Supreme.
Until next time, we'd like to thank the Academy.